Hello, YouTubers, practitioners of the craft we call jazz, modern music. I would like to continue the discussion of what I talked about last time. I kind of gave you some background, about who I am and what I do. And I ended one of my videos and I said I wanted to tell you how I started gigging with my own group. Now this is wild. If you remember, I was playing with a funk band. It was called The Family Affair. And I do want to say a correction. I think I said that Christophe was a drummer. Christophe was actually a bass player, and he was really good. We were a group kind of molded after. There's a group that's called Incognito, and if you check out Incognito, you'll know what kind of group we were in. And each one of us had specialty numbers. My specialty number was Cantaloupe Island. I remember that. And we also did Chameleon, and we did a lot of the jazz fusion songs. And so since I played alto, that's what we kind of focused on. And I also sang background vocals. And I kind of told you the little dynamics that was going on with Fatima. If you want to go back and find out what happened, basically, the leader told me don't talk to her no more. I didn't do anything wrong, but if you want to see what happened with all that, go back and look at story time. I believe it's part 8. Okay, so I was a sideman in different groups, and when I studied Spanish in Spain, when I was there, I was doing the same thing. I went to some jam sessions and met a lot of musicians there. And, one day I was in a place, a jazz club, and when I was in there, I somehow I met with the owner. I don't know the circumstances. Now, I want everybody to understand, I was learning Spanish. I was pretty fluent in French, and I was getting to where I could speak Spanish. I lived in Spain for about it was about a year and 2 months. That's how long I lived there. So I was pretty fluent. So I went to the club owner, and somehow or another I talked to him, and I was playing in the parks and playing at some of the little touristic-y places, playing in the park and whatnot. And one of the club owners, he told me, he said, so I was wondering, when can I book you for my club? And he says, what's the name of he first asked me, he asked me, do you have a group? And, the right answer is, no, I don't have a group. I didn't say that because I'm looking at, possibly starting. So I said, yes, I have a group. He said, okay, what is this? It's a quintet. He said, oh, really? It was a quartet, sorry. This is a quartet. He's like, okay, what's the instrumentation? I said, guitar, bass, drums, myself. He said, all right. He said, well, if you don't mind, I'll put you on the schedule. And he put me on the schedule to play. And I'm talking, I ran to that jam session. And there was a guitar player I got along with really well. He knew a bass player. And there was a drummer. He was from Mozambique. I liked him. I can't remember any of these people's names. But we had a group that was called Patrick and the Boys. And that's what I was getting to. He asked me, he said, so what's the name of your group? I said, Patrick and the Boys. And so that was my first group. I did a gig at that club. Then this other club owner asked me to come to his place, and word of mouth started spreading. We were gigging we did a performance probably once probably 2-3 times a week, which is pretty good. And just word of mouth. I continue to do private parties, private gigs, and different things like that. So that was an awesome experience because I learned about the business side of being a jazz musician and how to promote yourself, and not being shy. So I had gigs at there was I did a big jazz club. I never did a performance at the big jazz club. The big jazz club where I was living at was a club called Dadu Dada, which was in Santiago de Compostela. Now that was where like your big jazz artists would come and perform. Like Keith Jarrett or whatnot. So I'm not trying to paint a picture that I was at that level because I'm not. But like the small, they actually had, now this was around about 2001. They actually had a number of places and clubs. But a lot of times it wasn't exclusive jazz clubs. They had, sometimes they would have a punk band. Then after the punk band, then I would play, or they would have a mariachi band, and then maybe I play. The Spanish tend to be, those from Spain. They tend to be a bit eclectic. They want to hear different styles of music, different types of music. It was not uncommon for me to go behind a flamenco act. I mean, I learned a lot. I played with a lot of people. I remember there was this guy named Hector. He was a bossa nova specialist, and I told him I liked the bossa nova, and I learned "Girl from Ipanema," and that I think it's called "Bing Bong," "Bing Bong," "Bing Bong," "Bing Bong." Okay, it was that song, and I told him I said, I had played with the record. And, one learning experience that I learned after that is, well, you better be prepared, because he didn't know music theory. He didn't know how to express what he was doing. He was taking all the songs in totally different keys than the recording. So I would practice, and, we talked about what songs we were going to play, but he did those songs in his own key. It wasn't it wasn't in what I call the people's key of the recording. It was in, however he could sing it. So that was a learning experience, and I got through the gig, but I'll never forget that. Oh man, I'll never forget that. We did, it's called Quiet Nights and Quiet Stars. I think that's what it's called. It's this song, floating, quiet nights and quiet stars, quiet chords from my guitar, floating on the silence that surrounds us. Well, we did that song, and I was used to doing it in the song, whatever key it is in. I don't remember, but I was used to doing it not like we normally play it, and he played it in a totally different key. And if you know anything about bossa nova, there's a lot of changes, a lot of chords, and you're not just gonna just jump up and play it. And so, that was a learning experience. But I performed in La Coruña. I performed in Santiago de Compostela. Pretty much stuck to that area in those clubs. We had a little bit of a following. People would come, and hear me play, and just like I said, the Spanish like different styles of music. So that was a great experience. And I guess the next video, maybe I'll tell you how I ended up back home to great US of A. See you later.